I thought this was normal. I
Mm.
just came from a very weird family.
So the world does not trust generosity.
That was one of the big reconciliations I had to make in my own chart. You know, the fifth line, of course, you know, you have fifth line energy very strong.
Yes.
So, and like, I've always been very careful with my fifth line friends.
You could go, well, they're the authority, they have all the money, they have all the reasons, they are privileged, but it's also, there's a privilege in not making any decisions. And I think that's the bit that people who don't have the 45 do not understand. I love the way that you describe things. I think your intellect and your voice and the way that you use language and power and heart together are rare and beautiful. Welcome to Becoming Full of Yourself, the show where fulfillment is not a finish line, it's a way of being. I'm Ebony Allard, master coach, energy specialist, soul contract guide, here to help you remember who you were before the world told you who to be. In each episode, we explore what it means to lead from the inside out, embody your truth, and become so full of yourself that you overflow. Let's get into it. Adrienne, thank you for coming and joining me. I'm really excited about this conversation. I'm also really aware that I've said that for every single conversation this season. And, you know, when like you listen to people on podcasts and they're like, oh my God, I love that. Oh yeah, like that's so true. It genuinely is, because I have the privilege of inviting and having yeses from the most incredible people. And people listening to this will not believe us when I say, or when we say, that this is the first conversation that we've had that hasn't been on a keyboard. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming and joining me and saying yes to having a conversation about had no idea what.
Well, first off, Ebony, thank you so much for asking me and for having me. And I am so honored to be here amongst the amazing people that you have had as guests, because I've seen the guest list and I'm impressed. I love those people. So I'm super looking forward to our conversation today.
We were talking before we pressed the button about interested and interesting and highly intelligent women who like to go deep. And that, for a lot of women who are that, or who aren't that, we are intimidating and pitted against each other from quite a young age. And at least my experience, and one of the things I love about human design, is it gives structure to these things that I'm like, is this just my experience? Am I mad? Which we were also talking about our charts and stuff. Often is my Neptune on my ascendant. Am I just in dreamland, or do other people experience this? And one of those things is being an ego-centered woman, or being having a defined ego in human design speak, and having a channel that is from that ego center to the throat. And at least for me, that was how it was described, right? Egoic, willful. You know, you have this very strong voice, you are intimidating, you are powerful, your voice is too much. All I can hear is your voice, Ebony, right? And so at some point I was like, and now with the lens that I have and the knowledge that they have and all of this new understanding, I look at it and I'm like, I'm sorry, heart to throat, it's not what you think it is at all.
Yeah.
It's passion, heart on sleeve, heart in throat, wanting to share love generously. And so I'm really interested, because I have some other channels, some other things going on. But for you, it's like it's the heart and center of your design. I'd love to hear a little bit about your experience with it.
So it's really interesting, because when I first found out about human design, I had already gone through some experiences earlier in life that gave me the impression that like there was something afoot, but I couldn't really figure out what the heck was going on. To further complicate it, I actually grew up in a family of ego-defined generators. Everyone had the 40-37 channel, the channel of community, which was great. Like, I grew up in a very warm family. And no one told anybody else what to do, because everybody had a defined ego. We didn't know human design at the time. I thought everybody was like that. So I really thought that everyone was very super confident, could speak up for themselves, didn't take anybody else's shit. I thought this was normal. I just came from a very weird family. just too many of them. A couple of my mom and my sister on the cross of planning. So it was super strong in the family. So I get out into the world and I'm in school, and this is like elementary school. I'm a small child, or even up into high school. And I remember one time I was in a health class, and I've just been a voracious learner. I love to learn things. I'm a 1-3. I like to, whatever you can throw at me, I'll read it or learn it. And I remember maybe I'd asked a question or answered a question in health class, and one of the girls looked at me, and she looked at me and she said, "When you talk, I feel stupid." Now, I had not said anything to her. And I looked at her, I grabbed her hand, and I was like, you don't, that's, you don't say, one, you don't ever say that again. I said, two, you know, I'm just kind of a weirdo. And, I didn't realize that, we have diagnoses nowadays, right? We get diagnosed as, being on the spectrum. My father was a manifestor. I'm pretty sure he was also on the spectrum. Being on the spectrum, just being a strange person around information, I might have known things that that girl didn't know, but I knew instantly that her feeling bad about it was a problem. I knew that. And
Mm.
so to me, that has been kind of the tightrope I've been walking for a really long time. Is I know a lot of things, but I'm not a know-it-all.
Mm.
And part of what has emerged from my design is actually becoming the person that gives other people a platform to showcase their genius. My genius is showcasing other people's genius.
Mm.
And it really diffused all of the feelings of me being maybe a tyrant. Because let me tell you, to have the 4521 as your only channel, it's conscious for me. People are scared I'm going to come steal their tribe. They think I'm coming to get their people. Listen, I don't want your people. I promise. I want people. I love people. I like to know the people, but I'm not coming to take your people from you. Your people can be in two places. But for me, it really started to emerge for me that when you are the so-called tribe leader, if you think of the Gate 45 as tribe leader and the 4521 as tribal leadership and allocation of resources, I really had to explore myself. What are the precious resources in the tribe? The most precious resource in the tribe are the humans. So I help to distribute people in the most healthy way possible. In the most healthy, I'm not human trafficking. I collect people and I trade them like trading cards. Kind of like, because, just the way I'm built, I like to make sure I know who does what, who knows what, who is what. That's what a tribe is. A tribe is a lot of people with roles. I need to know who does what. So when you need something, or when another person that I know needs someone, I can hook those two people up.
Do you
And
know what
that's,
though?
yeah,
The world does not trust generosity at the moment. And I
man.
fucking hope that. So my gate 45 is my, now I'm like, which one is it? It's my, I'm gonna have to look. It's in one of the Venus positions that is a weakness for me, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I think it's maybe it's my Mars. I now have to look. But what that means is, and I was actually looking at this the other day and being like, oh, that piece of dominion or dominance over is, I grew up with a lot of, I'm not going to let anyone do it me any favors because then I will owe them. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not down for that. And I think a lot of people come from that place. And so when you roll in with your generosity, it's my conscious. And so, right. And it's in a 5 line. So it's that thing of, I don't trust. I learned that the way to be around particularly other women, because it's in my Venus, right, is
Yeah.
to be in charge of them.
Absolutely. Wow. You gotta, and it's really interesting when you say that, like, it's not only because when I look at human design charts, right? Even if something's in detriment, yeah, I always think that the detriment has to work in my favor. That was one of the big reconciliations I had to make in my own chart, was
Mm.
that there are things that are in detriment, and I have to make some peace with them. And the fifth line, of course, you have fifth line energy very strong.
Yes, I
So,
do.
right. So, of course, and like I've always been very careful with my fifth line friends. But because as a 1-3, I admire the fifth line the
Mhm.
most. The grown up I never get to be. I don't actually ever want to be a sixth line. I don't want to be the role model. I want to be the thing. I've studied the thing. I experimented with the thing. Can I be the thing? No, that gets to be the fifth line. So quite
Mm.
frequently it is about for you of course is managing the projection and accepting or rejecting the projection that's coming your way. But for me, that 45 has, well, I didn't lead or gather anybody prior to my Uranus opposition. So like till I was about your age, that the 45 was like dormant for me. I hadn't gathered even people at my house. I very rarely even entertained. I did Thanksgiving once at my house, and I did an excellent job. My mother was like, "This is amazing. You're such a great hostess." And I was like, "Yeah, never bring these people to my house again. I'm done." I was gracious hostess. It was amazing. But for me, and hearing what you're saying, like, yeah, when you're basically skittish, can be skittish around the gathering of women because quite frequently, especially because of early conditioning and early experiences, and many women have had really terrible experiences with other women.
Well, and I think also like it's that one line for you, and it's in your moon. I just
Yeah,
looked at my chart again, and it's like it's not so I have a conscious and unconscious. Both
yeah.
are in Venus, and my unconscious Venus is one line, and the conscious is the fifth line.
Holy smokes.
So there has been, and like literally as I say that to him, like, okay, I really get some of this now, right? I have always been really conscious. When I was younger, I would speak. The manifestor urge to speak is strong. And like it would come and I would speak. And then there would be this thing where really in school in younger groups, I don't remember any specific examples, but I remember a general feeling of let other people speak, Ebony, right?
Mhm.
Like you can't always be you, right? And so that fifth line of like, and then people project on you and all of it, right? So the fifth line, the conscious bit, really stepped back. And I made the decision to not speak, not share my resources, not, right? And that my job was, and so instead, like similarly to you, right, what I started to do was recognize and go, I reckon this one's got something great to say, or and deflect the mic.
Yeah,
And what I see now is that one line piece in the unconscious where I'm slowly allowing myself to be heard and to be and to have some dominion.
yeah,
Right. But it's a really interesting piece. And actually one of the things, it's a really interesting piece for so many reasons, because angry women versus passionate women, because resource and command, and so my other bit was like when I was going through that conditioning, I remember getting really angry because I would be stepping back and then no one would talk and no one would do it and no one would offer themselves forward, and so it'd be like, so now not only do I have to go really slowly and like wait for people to talk, but then they don't talk, and so then I have to save them, rescue them
yeah,
by being the teacher. And I think that these parts of ourselves, like this, it's so beautiful to see it reflected back, and slowly and with age be like, those lessons were all perfect to
yeah,
take me to where I am now, where I have experience of both of those pieces. And actually, with this throat of mine, this motorized throat of mine, have learned when it's okay for me to speak and when it's okay for me to be puppy excited, and that actually there are some people in my life who are like, more. And also when it's like not the right circumstance or situation.
yeah. I mean, I love to hear that, and I love, for me, my experience was so different because I think I was largely very quiet as a child.
Mm.
So like I have the 48 three times in my chart. I was very bookish. So I just read a lot as a youngster.
Yeah.
And so I was the youngest of like a whole lot of kids. And again, all those egos in the house. quite frequently. It was just no way for me to get a word in edgewise. And it just wasn't like, who was listening to me? I had to wait until people left the house. They were like, I had older brothers and sisters. They needed to leave and go start families before I could get a word. But really, what I think the biggest influence was my South nodes being in gate 51. So the
Yeah.
gate of shock. But it was
Yeah.
very just independent energy.
Mm.
And it was, I mean, there was a lot going on in my childhood as well. So for me, I escaped through books and I did a lot of things alone. And that aloneness actually followed me all the way into my 30s. So I just, like I said, I never gathered with people. I never gathered anybody. I didn't have a lot of experiences, like negative experiences with women or even positive ones, because I just didn't gather very frequently with them. And so I spent so much time alone
Mm.
that, I just, when I did get around people, of course, I like to talk. I'm a chatter. I like to talk. But yeah, there was a lot of years for me that I was a loner. I really was. And I don't feel like the lone wolf type of thing, because my family was very supportive and I had a lot of contact with them. But I was always on the go doing things by myself, you know.
But I see that as a really 1-3 experience, right?
Yeah.
Because you were alone, consciously, one in your seed, in your individuation, really like being that, and
Yeah.
then stepped into that 3 of, and it could have been the martyr for that first period, but then it kind of stepped into experimentation and trying things out and like, doing that. And that's a really beautiful way of looking at it.
Yeah. It was great. I mean, I had a great time and I loved kind of, it was like there was a slickness to not actually being attached. So we know that the 4521 is allegedly tribal. It really isn't exactly. Um, it is functionally tribal, but it almost acts separate and apart from everything. But yeah, but it
It's
can
so,
be
but it's so regal in that way, right? So the king or the
100%
queen is
separate.
tribal, right? Is a part of the community, is a fundamental part. Its only function, when way back
Yeah,
when, was to keep the people alive, right?
yeah,
Like to keep them resourced, to be one leader that looked after all of the resources so that the community could get through winter. But
yeah,
it was separate from, and didn't have the same in, like, it's so interesting because of the way we talk about privilege these days, because
yeah,
privilege is, you could go, well, they're the authority, they have all the money, they have all the reasons, they are privileged, but it's also, there's a privilege in not making any decisions. And I think that's the bit that people who
yeah,
don't have the 45 do not understand. Yes, I'm in charge, but do you know the weight of that?
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's there isn't a great exchange.
Mm.
The two sides of that channel, the
Mm.
21 is holds the purse strings or directs all of the work. So like if someone is out in the field gathering the wheat, who counts the wheat? That's the 21,
Mm.
right? The 45 can't do that. The 45 is too busy doing, diplomacy.
Chatting.
Yeah, chatting, yeah, diplomacy, talking about what we have, what we don't have, all of these things.
Yeah.
And then when you boil it down, I remember I wrote something, and this was a year or two ago, and I was like, the king and the queen or the royalty are given access to rich resources, right? The best cuts of meat, the finest houses, the finest, because they are hired to do a very special job. And they don't actually own the things, because well, how do we know that? Because if you have a revolution, ask France, they will cut the heads off of the royalty and they will revolt. And so that the revolution actually comes for the head of the king. The 45 never goes. The 21 could escape. The hand of the king could escape. So if you have the 45 and the 21 two separate people, the 21 may escape, but the 45 will not, because they were the figurehead. So I wrote, basically it's really access versus ownership. I don't think that the kings and queens actually own anything. They can't pick up a castle. They can't pick up all of what's in the coffers and take it with them. They literally are bound to where the tribe has established the kingdom.
I love that from a, like, because my 56 could talk in allegory and story and metaphor all day. But I also really love that from the perspective of the throat is the manifestation piece, right? It's where it comes, it's where we speak things into existence. It's where everything comes out through and into reality. But it's not the asset. It's the asset is the heart. The asset is the ego. The asset is the beating central part, right?
Yeah.
And in many ways, that's really unfair, right? Like that whole like shoot the messenger thing. There's a lot of responsibility that comes with having a defined and motorized throat. And I think it can be, people have a lot of stuff around the 5 line. Everyone wants to be a 5. Try being a 5, right? It's not like, it's all very well knowing what to say, knowing how to say it, knowing when to say it, but you will get shot down for it. And you have to learn to deal with those projections. And I think that there's something in being a manifester that is very similar to being heretic, right?
It is.
And I want to kind of talk about that because you talk, one of the, you know, I love the way that you describe things. I think your intellect and your voice and the way that you use language and power and heart together are rare and beautiful. And you talk about dark human design, which I want to kind of bring in because it's important.
Yeah.
And I wanted to establish heart before we talk dark, because it's, again, it's really important, and we are safe to go anywhere when we own our hearts, right? When we're in that stability, and that's what that will center does for us. And I really want to talk about reconciling or what it takes to have a signature that is so misunderstood and volatile, right? Because satisfaction and frustration, but peace and anger are a lot. And and maybe it's because of my design, maybe it's because of the electromagnetic field, maybe it's because of evolution, but I have a lot of manifestors and a lot of children manifestors in my reality, my realm at the moment. And I feel like as an evolutionary process, we're really being asked to look at how we move with anger and how we establish peace. And I don't feel like we're doing a very good job of it as a collective. And so any individual conversation that we can have, which then impacts the fractal and rolls out into the world, is important as far as I'm concerned.
Well, first off, one of my favorite subject matters, because I don't know if you know this, but I don't have a lot of 5th lines in my chart. I have 2. And I lean heavily on those because what happened to me was I found out there was a few things. I had gone to a human design conference and someone's like, oh, we're having a discussion about base. Now, I don't actually talk about the really super deep stuff in human design anymore because I don't find it as useful as the stuff closer to the surface. But they were like, you're a base 5. And they were like, kind of explaining the 5th line. And I was like, wait, is that what's been happening to me? Because I was definitely getting I get weird projections, but I also get strange projections, partially because my 5th lines are in 2 very important places. My personality Pluto and my design moon. Those are super important. One very high up on the chart, and the other because it conjuncts my sun.
Right.
It's part of what people see around me. There's all these projections. So I needed to learn more about 5s, and so I surrounded myself with 5th line teachers, and I went to 5th line school. So I had a 5-1 projector, I had a 5-1 manifesting generator, and I was like, okay, I need to know the skinny on this 5th line stuff, and I was also studying. And to tie it into the manifestor journey, because there was a 5th line manifestor that I was kind of I say this, I don't get close to 5th lines for the most part. It's going to be rare because honestly, if you're a miracle maker, a rainmaker in my life, and you're a 5th line, if I'd prefer to just admire you from afar. I don't actually have to get close. and I think that first of all, can we give the 5th line their fucking room, right? Unless you're my partner, my mate, or something like that, I don't need to really be all up in your life. Please, let's just keep the fantasy going. Okay. I don't actually want to know your real shit. And it's okay. And I know it may feel lonely, but I'm a 1-3. I specialize in lonely. It's cool. Just I prefer to keep the space. And that was one of the things that I learned because you made the connection that there's similarity between the fifth line role and the manifester. Manifestors literally kind of need to occupy the edges of our societies, really not supposed to be in the center of all the people, because the other auras don't play well with our aura, particularly like generator auras. We'll irritate a generator. Like I
You
irritate.
repel them, right? Get on board or get out of the way, right? There's
Well, that's part of it. The other part of it is when you have an aura that's trying to envelop you. Envelopment actually is a method of communication. I think aura itself, I I've made so much content I've never put out, but an aura is actually a communication field that is around your body, and it's trying to communicate things. Well, when you have the enveloping aura is a really great communicator. It's the best communicator.
So I love this. So I started my journey into human design many years ago, but it was complex and it was masculine and it was heady, right? And so I left it alone and I went and did other things. And then I came back to it. And one of the other things that I did was dived in quite deep with numerology. Now, in numerology, the way that I was taught it and the person that I learnt it with was a 5-1 who is genius at theory and put together energy bodies and numerology. And so the way that I was taught it is that the 7 is the auric body.
Yeah.
Now, as a karma 7, which I like to call a mastery 7, because I don't believe that we have karma that we're here to pay back. I believe that we are here to master something.
Yeah.
And so I am a mastery 7. And so at that point, it was like, oh, well, how do I master my 7? How do I master this piece of me that other people see as the Marilyn effect? If I can turn it on and turn it off, but I have no fucking control of the switch. How do I get this switch, right? I want to be able to know when to turn it on and when to turn it off.
Yeah.
That was then, okay, I need to work on my aura. And then human design appeared, which is the science of the aura. And so, of course, it's like, to me, the 7 is, 1, it's a 5 and a 2, playing together, right? It is where our physical bodies meet the sky. It's, it's that in-between place.
Yeah.
And then it goes into breath. And so it makes complete sense when you look at it like that, that it is an infrastructure and that it is enveloping. And enveloping, like my mum always used to say to me when I was young, essentially, your aura goes everywhere. It gets in every space, right? Like if you're in a mood, everyone's in a mood, right?
Yeah. I mean, it can be intoxicating.
Well, and that's because for me, I was the only emotionally defined person in my house, but also I had this weak 7, right?
Yeah.
So if you, and because I am a Mani-Gen, but if I'm not but that sacral, the thing that is the enveloping aura, is half conscious and half not conscious. And so
always fun.
Yeah. And so as I'm describing like this, it's because as you're describing it, most people only ever think of the enveloping aura from the perspective of the aura.
Yeah.
Rather than what's it filling, which is kind of what it feels like you're talking to, right?
Yeah. I mean, exactly. Understanding then that when this aura that likes to flow into places finds something it cannot flow into, it almost has the same effect as the grain of sand or the grit inside of the oysters, clams, whoever makes the pearls, right? So basically, as humans, we don't make pearls. We don't make pearls. But that is in some way how the enveloping aura attempts to first approach the manifestor's aura is, are you like me? Let me make sure. Let's see. What if I can layer you with layers and layers of what I see of myself, and then you'll be like me. And then the manifestor is very quickly feeling closed in because they're like, why are you putting this on me? And this is, again, very similar in some ways to that 5th line. So my best advice from what I've learned about being a manifestor, from what I've learned about 5th lines, is that 5th lines have to do their magic and then get the hell out of Dodge. So you don't stay around after the magic is done, because familiarity breeds contempt. That happens for fifth lines. That also happens for manifestors. Manifestors are strong magic. Fifth lines are strong magic. And if, I tell people this all the time. If you take a heroic dose of mushrooms on a Monday, right? You're going to take this 5 grams and you're going to talk to the gods. You could take 5 grams on Tuesday, you might feel something like a body load. If you take 5 grams every day for the next 10 days, by the time you get to the 10th day, you could have just bought button mushrooms from the grocery store and you become.
And for me, what I thought you were going to say is, right, if you are with somebody and you take 5 grams together, right, and you experience that magic and you're like in it, and then like a couple of days later you see them in the street and they're just a normal human.
It ruins the it ruins the
So
magic.
much
And for
for me of that 5 effect is being Wizard of Oz, when they're like, but it's just a curtain and you're just a human and you're just turning a thing, right? Yes, and I never said I was anything else, but you don't look behind the curtain if you don't want the illusion to be broken.
100%. And that's the thing. By if you familiarity breeds contempt, and it actually can break the illusion, because most what we call magic, the things that actually move the needle for people, don't have to be real, whatever real is. Placebo is almost as effective as any pharmaceutical, probably even more. Well, we know it doesn't have harmful side effects. So oftentimes, what we say, oh, the fifth line, to some degree, the fifth line is an actor, a showman, and is here to make a miracle. And they make the miracle, or they have the solution. They sell you the bottle of green fluid, and you do the thing, and now you go fix your stuff. But when you go and see them just picking mangoes or having a meltdown, then you can no longer believe that the medicine that they gave you was good. So yeah, the projection
and I think it's really interesting because as a fifth line who's done my initiations and has a huge amount of fifth line energy, I feel like the way that I pull the curtain up is really repelling for a lot of people, right? And like, but for me, it's been so much part of my journey of like, I'm not like, I am a one-woman film, but don't expect me to be like, I am exhausted afterwards, right? I can put on a whole show for you. And there's something about when I go and watch a really good movie, I choose, we all do, to suspend our disbelief. And in so doing, we go on a journey and we feel, and emotion moves, right? There's certain movies I can watch. I've seen them. I know what happens, but I go because I want to cry, because I want to fall in love, because I want to be in the illusion.
Yeah.
But if I choose to watch it and be like, how many days was that? No one went to the bathroom. She's still wearing those. How did she get those clothes? It's not possible. All of those things.
Why is her hair so nice? Her makeup is perfect.
No one goes to sleep like that. You're choosing to ruin your own magic. You're choosing to look like, to pull the curtain up, and you can have that conversation separately.
Yeah.
You can be like, that film was really stupid, but I loved it, right? They can be separate things. And I think for me, that's a big part of my work in the world, is like, don't buy into the film. Don't be like, why is my life not a film? Recognize that it's a film.
I think that you're awesome, because I don't believe in people. I don't believe in people's ability to do that much. I think that a lot of times at the time that they're asking you for your magic, they don't necessarily have the ability to also, I mean, you're behind the scenes, you know what's happening. You were part of the production crew. They really needed to be real in the moment.
And it is real in the moment.
It's 100% real. But so to keep it real is to keep it not real, keep it surreal. I don't know. What I will say, I understand what you're saying. I think it is absolutely possible there are people who are able to do that. What I have found and I've seen is that quite frequently that fifth lines and sometimes manifestors are placed on pedestals.
Yes.
And I call it the P's, the pedestals and the pits. If I'm a manifester or if I'm a fifth line, I will not deal with people who put me on a pedestal or put me in a pit as someone who would be close to me. So like my
100%. Yeah.
partner, I am constantly, if he ever tries to put me on a pedestal, I kick the leg out from under it,
Yeah.
because we can't have that relationship.
No, you can't,
But
because then you buy into the illusion and then you're
yeah,
fucked, right? That's the bit for
but
me.
the lady over who's buying my services in Seattle, oh yeah, no, we want that. We want her. She's fantasy. Listen, your listeners right now, trust me, the fantasy is the fantasy, and it's as good as they say. When I talk about dark human design, shit's amazing. So like, and I don't want you to know that it's not like I don't want you to know, but it's really about it's okay to be a showman. It's okay to be to work in the Maya and to work in illusion, because it's a play. Like the Maya has other meanings besides just illusion. And I think us Westerners, we take the word illusion and we think of it as something that's bad. But like, I would pay to go see a magician. I pay to go see movies. I just saw Beetlejuice. So like, and
Yeah.
like you said, I paid to go have. There's a difference between watching Beetlejuice and watching the making of Beetlejuice.
It's entirely different. And we're going to run out of time. And there's a part of me that's like, and I want you to talk about dark human design. And I want you to talk about the kind of the anger and the peace.
Yeah, that's
And
going.
I
Yeah,
also like love your explanation of that piece of the Maya, right? And maybe this is the way into the shadow and the dark piece. I don't know. I'm going to let you talk to it. But one of the pieces I had to own, people often say to me now, you really own your 56, right? You are so good as a storyteller, so good as a showman, you're so right, all of those things. I hated my 56 for such a long time. I had so much shame around it, not only because every classroom I'd ever been in, the only voice I can hear is yours, Ebony, and like, you know, stop telling tales, stop exaggerating, so much. My dad used to say things like, she never lets the truth get in the way of a good story. So I had so much like layering of like, my 56 is awful and bad and I shouldn't do it. Plus, then when I started to get into this work, and it was the city of intoxication, there was no way that I could see intoxication as good. It took a really long time for me to see it as the exquisiteness of a flower or of incense, of like that beautiful, overwhelming, sensual overload that takes you to that place of disbelief. But it's a lot, it's potent, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's rare medicine. It's not something that is all the time. And I think that it's really interesting because you say there was a part of you that you found out through human design was a righteous part of you. This isn't a feature, not a bug. And that's the whole thing about conditioning. Conditioning is the act of separating someone from their true self. And the family, the classroom, everyone who has anything to say says that thing that is a piece of you, you need to separate from yourself. So this is partly why we are always in this state of remembering. That's what we're doing when we're deconditioning and then reconditioning ourselves, is coming into a point of remembrance. And the thing about it is, every one of those pieces, every limb that was separated from us, is the space where the anger lives, where the frustration lives, where there's a space where our self used to be, and someone convinced us to get rid of it. And for me, kind of just segueing into the anger and peace, right? Because it's one, I had to recognize and reconcile the fact that I was very, very angry. I had my gallbladder taken out when I was 20 years old, which is interesting because I think that actually suppressed my anger in my 20s. It sublimated it, it put it in my body in other places. So it made me have an autoimmune disease versus being someone who had a healthy expression of anger. When I first found out I was a manifester and they were like, you're not self as anger, I was like, I must be perfect because I don't get angry. I was like the happiest person, so happy. And then I think that as I started to get to know myself, it actually remember, right? reattach the limbs that have been snatched off, as I started to do that, that's when I connected to the anger. And I found out, Ebony, that not only was I a very angry person, um, but that I was capable of deep violence. It was all in there. I was like, "Ooh, what is this?" So, I thought of myself as someone strong and determined. All the cutesy words that we talk about for people who are doing what society says they should do, right? Oh, she's determined. Look at her being, she's out. What was unleashed in me as I started to remember myself was this deep-seated anger and a level of violence that I didn't realize was there. And luckily I didn't do anything violent mostly to anybody, mostly. I mostly, but it really showed me that there was something that needed to be transmuted. And that my very first job was to remember myself. So I had to go through the very painful process of finding my missing pieces. In shamanism, they call it soul retrieval. It's literally the same process, but in different ways. If human design isn't your stick, great, go find a shaman. If shamanism isn't your stick, go find something else. Because all you need to know is that you are here and you have the opportunity to remember yourself. You start remembering yourself, and it can be a very painful process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, whether it is human design deconditioning, whether it is shamanism, whether it is wholeness, right? For me, so much of that is around, like, I use it all because it's very intense. And really, I will throw everything at it. Right. And you have that gate 53, which I call the innocent initiator, as your Mars, right? And so that I have it as my Mercury. And so it's Cancerian, it's vicious, but it's very feely. Right. And there is this reclamation of, you can't have one end without the other. And like this it comes across in defensive, but it's actually like feely, so loving, so emotional,
Yeah, the way that I experience it is like, because we know it's the gate of beginnings, and it's really interesting because part of remembering yourself, even though I am the innocent initiator and I just start stuff, there was a point in time where I was compulsively starting so many things that it was senseless. But I am supposed to start some things that I'd never finish. So it was in remembering myself, I actually was able to give myself a certain level of permission to not start some things, to leave certain things to be in the idea book, which I do. I have an idea book. I designed a clothing line that I will never create. Just because I felt like drawing that day. And whereas previously I might have gone out and bought a sewing machine and some sewing lessons and done some things like that. And so realizing also that the things that I start, I'm a 1-3. So the things that I do start that looks like it's going to be a sure thing, shit's not going to be a sure thing. You know what it's going to be a sure thing to do? Teach me something. And I've learned so many things precisely in that way. Walking in a direction and then watching the road disappear right beneath my feet and realize it's just another road coming.
Well, and that all leads to your son, that, you are the Great Hall of Alexandria because of all these things you've started, right? But for me, I love that we keep going around this like anger, dark human design, and I want to wrap it up and come to the end, right? And we'll leave them on a cliffhanger, and then they'll have to come and find you to find out more, which is great. But it's that the 53 is a spark. It's not a fire, it's a spark. And I've recently, because it's my Mercury, it's my brand message, right? I've recently been like, oh, also my son is in the 8th house, like blah, blah. I'm an initiator, right? And again, I used to start a new project every day. I still start 10 projects in my head when I have to do. I am the queen of getting the shit that has not got done forever done as soon as something else has to be done. but also I would never be an entrepreneur if it wasn't for the 53, right? Because it's
100%.
innocent initiator, right? If I knew what was actually fucking involved, I wouldn't go there. If I had
100%.
opened the door and seen the screaming souls on the death pit before I went, yeah, I'm going, I would not have walked in, right? And what that means is that the anger, the intensity, the dark human design, what people don't understand because they look and they procrastinate and they don't jump in, that's where the fucking magic is, right? So they're all so busy being scared of dark human design or of their own anger, or like, if I open Pandora's box, what will happen? I will discover my own inner violence. I might hurt other people. I might see what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might. But you might also learn that you are rare, that you are potent, that you do not need to show up all the time, that you can rest a fuck of a lot more, that you can play, that you can start shit and then leave it on the floor and have someone else clean it up. It's like it's a whole paradigm shift.
It's all what you've just said is like, I'm like, oh, she's in my life, but I realize I do also have one of my 53s in a Mercury, in my design Mercury. So like we got to vibe more, because this is hilarious when you talk about those starting of
Oh
things.
yeah.
and
You've got it
accepting.
second line.
Absolutely, yeah. High five, let's have fun. Because it really, what I have done now is translated everything that has to do with entrepreneurship into, right now all I'm doing is having fun. And by introducing this as something that is fun, and that's kind of partly where the idea of dark human design came from. It's not tongue in cheek exactly, but it's a little bit about just like what you were talking about, being able to accept those parts of us that were deemed unacceptable by other people, but also recognizing those kind of traits in other people that are around us. Because I think I'm living a fantasy relationship. And it's really interesting because my North nodes are in Libra, gate 57. I never would have guessed in my entire life that I would get to this stage of my life and have a relationship like with a man. Because I had been, I don't know. I was always very much attractive. So I always have men around, but I didn't want to claim any of those men. Y'all can keep, these men can be for the streets, because I'm for the streets. I'm having a good time in my life. I was definitely not looking to settle down or anything like that. And as my design would have it, it was time. And I was brought my partner for several reasons. One, he's a 6'3" manifesting generator, with 4 Scorpio placements in important places. And he came to be, I call him my dark teacher, because he's an intense individual.
No shit.
No shit. Like, okay, you already know, like, innocence, motivation, but like crazy as hell. And it's like, how did you make it? And we have a child together. Our daughter is 26, but I literally avoided that man for 21 years. I didn't even see him. My daughter saw him, but I did everything in my world to avoid him. But this being with him, I had to approach someone, becoming close with someone who had a passing interest in human design, but he's kind of like, he's really like regular everyday muggle. He's not into anything. And I was like, how did I end up with this regular ass guy? I thought I was gonna.
Well, so for me, one of those things, of those regular ass muggle guys who are very scorpionic in their karma, there's a bit of me, and I imagine you have this as a 1-3, where I'm like, I do so much work to get here and you just existed? What? How is that fair?
Oh, wait, and it doesn't help because this guy's a 6'3" and I'm watching him. Like, we're both marching up to 50. I'm almost, how old am I? I think this is lying. I think I'm 47. Maybe I'm 46. I don't know. I have no idea how old I am right now. I'm 46. Anyway, we're the same age. We're only like a month apart. He's a 6'3", and I'm watching him become the role model. And I'm like, how the hell are you this good? You're like good now? You were like literally the antagonist of my entire movie. You were the bad guy, and now you're like the good guy. What is going on? But anyway, just being able to use human design to understand him and to understand me, and then shifting my own energy, taking a leadership role in my own process, pushed his process in the strangest way. If someone would have told me that that man would be happy and beautiful like he is now, and I didn't find him that way 4 years ago. He was absolutely the same mess that I had been avoiding for 21 years. But I realized like I had to do something in here, and that changed what was out there. And I had to do it very specifically. I had to do some very specific things. And the specific things do go revolve around how we're different as generators and manifestors, and being able to operate cleanly. And it did require for me to grab a hold of the anchor and really, really, really get deep into like the unconscious Mars. The line two is denial. And Gene Keys, they talk about it as denial, and denial is anger that somebody didn't give you something. Somebody else is supposed to do this for you. It's an external, yeah. It's like somebody else did this to me. It's fate fucked me up, and I had to own myself. And I think being in his presence and studying human design in the way I had to study it, because I went through a different process that I had not seen prescribed before. But and that's kind of where dark human design came from. The idea that you actually have far more influence over the people around you, as long as if you know how they're built and you know how you're built, you can make actual magic happen in your life. And this poor man, I'm just watching him because I know he's like, what the hell happened to me? What is going on? He's so
Well,
happy.
you know what? And people are like, they're a willing participant. You can't,
Oh yeah, no, it's consensual.
absolutely.
100%. And that's the thing, you can never take away. As a matter of fact, that's like one of the rules. It feels undercover and it feels like you're manipulating, but what's really happening is you're mastering your own energy. And I can never operate someone else's strategy and authority for them.
And I
But
think it's really important for the feminine, right? And right,
yeah,
because we are designed to manipulate, right? We're designed to, the dance of the seven
yeah,
veils is a manipulation and it's really beautiful, but we're
yeah,
designed to manipulate ourselves, not the other. And that we
not
were
the other.
taught passive aggressive. We were taught like, or socialized into it. And I think actually what is really beautiful about the Venus sequence and that piece of like looking at our own wounds and being like, I can change my relationship with my relationship by looking at my relationship with all of these different parts of myself. And it's if you have enjoyed this conversation, if you are still with us, then it is something that you will actually really enjoy, right? Like there is a seduction and like a dark mistress that calls you in, captivates you, and then rewards you for following your own darkness, for choosing to transmute frustration or anger into satisfaction and peace. It's a real beautiful dance. And so I am going to wrap it up there. If you
Yeah.
want to continue that conversation with either of us, if you want to go and learn more about dark human design, if you are a manifestor who's like, oh my God, I have just found the person I need in my life, then you can go find out more about ManiSisters. I will put all the links and stuff in the show notes. But if people want to come and connect with you and have a conversation or watch the illusion of you from a distance, where's the best place for them to come?
Well, the best place at this time is just the ManiSisters Global Facebook page, which is really odd because that's probably the place I'm most active. If you're a manifester, we do have a group that you can find from that page. And I really am looking forward to doing more connections with manifestor women. We have a party every month. We're calling them parlor parties, and what we do is we get together, have something short like a TED talk from a ManiSister, and we have really unique. I don't even know. activities, like a big fucking play date. We have a play date for manifestors because what? The gateway for peace, the gateway to peace is playfulness. You need to play. So we get together and we play.
I love that so much. Can one who has a manifestor body come and join? No, it's good for you to have spaces, and I will send all of the manifestors that I do electromagnetically pull into my world, and who love me for a little bit. and then it's like, yeah, then there's somewhere else for them to go. I'm going to send them your way because you are an absolute star. Thank you so much for your time and your attention, your focus, your gift, your voice. It's been just such a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Ebony. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to Becoming Full of Yourself. If you found resonance here, subscribe, share it with someone who's ready to reclaim their fullness, and leave a review to help others find this work. For more resources, rituals, real talk on living a fully fulfilled life, head to ebonyallard.com. Until next time, be bold, be brave, be full of yourself.